Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to take a look at a little section of an interview that Steve Bannon did with Jeffrey Epstein. This is a small section of a 2-hour interview that's been released, but it is actually part of a full 15-hour sort of film reel that we haven't been able to see, so this is just the released section. It's going to cover the ties between Epstein and the Rockefellers, his introduction to this, I guess, steering committee known as the Trilateral Commission, as well as a really important topic known as fractional reserve banking, which will hopefully give us all some insight into how modern finance works and how our money really works, as Epstein himself will sort of explain for us and give us his own admission. Alright, so here we have Epstein, and he's just going to sort of give us a little introduction into his connection with the Rockefellers.
The most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place? How did they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
Good question. So I was asked to be on the board of Rockefeller, and I think I was on the board of Rockefeller. There was a money manager who said Rockefeller needs someone with financial expertise because the university is growing and there's lots of new things. You have to, again, we go back to the original discussion the last time. Up until the mid-'80s or sort of mid-'70s, the most important thing was your name. If you were Rockefeller, you already were considered to be brilliant. If you were head of General Motors, it was your reputation. It was who you knew, who your family was, what was your character. And then in the mid-'70s, so basically, if you remember, you probably had a calculator. It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator, where it could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply for you to do square roots. And that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street. A simple, almost like your accountant. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations. So it's not only mathematics, but it's things that could be calculated. Reputation couldn't be calculated. I could give you, are you a 10 on a reputation scale, an 8? What does it mean to have a measurement of your reputation? We'll get to that later. But places like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we're entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced, it was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board? Potentially sit on the finance committee, Nancy Kissinger and a bunch of other people. And David Rockefeller and I got along very well. He was this unbelievable human being. Respectful to everyone. He introduced his driver as his colleague, not his driver. He would never say, this is my driver. He said, this is my colleague. And David started to explain to me world politics. So David would say, Jeffrey, money is going to be sort of the most important thing. People don't understand money. You seem to have this knack for money. I said to David, tell me about your life. What was the worst and the best part of your life? So David said, when I grew up,
So yeah, that is sort of like a confirmation, an admission from Epstein himself, his connection with these sort of high-level, banking elites, with David Rockefeller himself. So we'll then move on to, it's right over here, I think.
$2 billion of assets to $10 billion, it means people owe it an additional $8 billion, but their assets have gone up. So the terminology of assets and liabilities is different for banks. It's not natural. And what most people, and you ask questions about world leaders, there's many people, I think your old boss Mercer understood, there's a fundamental part of money, which is called fractionalized banking. And fractionalized banking is something that finance people understand, and the people on the street, and when I say people on the street, that's where I was when I started on Wall Street, would find it impossible to believe. Impossible. Why? Bannon Bank, I give you $1, just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much could you lend out to your friends? And your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1, because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. Next question.
Wait, how
All right, so yeah, right there was quite a succinct explanation of fractional reserve banking. So you're basically giving out money that you do not have, and then what we sort of see and what you can do with that sort of money is that the money that you lent out, the $8-9, as Epstein said, you could then perhaps charge interest on it, right? And then you can gain back that $8 or $9 that you lent out. You can have $10 in total, and if the people come back and say, okay, I want my $1 back, you can give it back because you've taken it from them, and it's essentially a scam. And this isn't a new ploy. This isn't a new system. If you think back to the origin of notes with sort of gold merchants. Gold merchants introduced the idea of the note. So, they would give you this piece of paper. It would represent one actual piece of gold, or it was supposed to at least represent one actual piece of gold that they had in their storage. And then, they would lend it to you. You could use it, do whatever you want with it, right? It was, the first sort of paper money, I believe. But what ended up happening was that, okay, some merchants, they would lend out that paper note, because paper note was really easy to sort of make, right? It's the paper itself is worth less than the gold, so you could make lots of paper notes. So you could give out more paper notes than you had actual gold, and then, just like with sort of fractional reserve banking, you give out 10 notes when all you have is one gold, and then you charge interest on all those notes, and then you sort of gain back that extra money and just sort of repeat that scam over and over again. So yeah, that was a really interesting part of this interview, where Epstein just sort of fully explains how our modern banking system works. Now, the whole interview goes across a huge, wide number of topics, but one really interesting moment, if I can find it, it's towards the end. Oh, here we go.
Bro, the reason I brought up writing is one of the recent discoveries of mine with respect to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle is they never wrote anything. They spoke, and people around who could write wrote. Socrates could think. So that was...
Jesus of Nazareth was the same way, right? Never wrote anything.
I thought he was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter.
But didn't he need like a little carpenter? I don't get
But at least his written record.
Right.
One last thing.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
So yeah, that was an interesting moment, Bannon bringing up Jesus. And then one final part. I think this is the part that everybody's seen, but this went sort of viral. It should be around here.
Epstein should have helped these people.
You're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from a, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
What's tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm
the lowest?
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1.
I mean, this isn't the part I was going to talk about, but he thinks he's a tier 1 sexual predator. I mean, this is just, it's just ridiculous, yeah.
The lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them, if I told them the devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil. Somebody knows the devil's brilliant. You read Milton.
Yeah, I don't know why Bannon. I mean, it kind of makes sense that he starts glazing him there, but yeah, are you the devil himself? Well, I do have a really good mirror. I mean, that was a wild response. So I think those were some of the highlights out of the interview. There's a lot more. They do go into some interesting Kabbalistic topics later in the interview, and so if you want to go through the whole thing, I'd really recommend it. It does get a bit off the deep end, but yeah, really sort of important stuff being revealed here. But before I sort of end this video, we saw the connection between Epstein and the Rockefellers, but another sort of interesting connection here, if I can just find it. Oh yeah, and here of course, this is Epstein in one of the emails that's been released. Epstein did attend the Trilateral Commission. So it looks like in 2005, he was at least invited to attend these meetings. And you know, these Trilateral Commissions, they were full of high-level political, financial sort of elites. It was set up by Henry Kissinger, I believe, as well as a few others. Really interesting, current Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, he was actually in the Trilateral Commission himself, but in recent years, I believe 2021 or something like that, he was in the Trilateral Commission. So that's another little interesting tidbit. And one more sort of no, actually I'll leave it there for today. I think I covered quite a bit. Next time I'll sort of look at, so we looked at the Rockefellers today, just sort of establish that connection. I think next time we'll look at the connection between Epstein and the Rothschilds, because there is quite a lot of emails between Epstein and Ariane de Rothschild, and a lot of mentions of that name, which is something we'll have a look next time. But yeah, hopefully you guys liked that video. If you did, please go ahead and like it, repost it, share it, so on. And yeah, comment what you thought, and I'll see you in the next one.